And Professor Khalid, if you could then follow.
Thank you, Chairman. There's one thought that I would like to share, which has been concerning me for a while, and unless one looks at it squarely in the face, it doesn't really resonate with what we are actually doing. Creation is cyclical. Night follows day, follows night, and years follow centuries, follow millennia, and so on and so on and so on. And we all celebrate our festivals because they are cyclical in the way they present themselves. For example, last April, we had the Christian Easter, we had the Jewish Passover, we had the Hindu and Sikh Vaisakhi, we had the Islamic Ramadan, and we had the Buddhists of Sri Lanka celebrate Full Moon Day every month. It's cyclical in nature. So when I look at the ideas of sustainable development and progress and the economic paradigm, it cuts right across the grain of the cyclical nature of creation. And this is, I think, the main reason why we have, in fact, through giving economics the kind of importance that we have given it, that we are suffering from the kind of biodiversity loss and the kind of things we have, climate change and so on, that we are keep talking about. So in this sense, what I would like to suggest is that we reconsider, in fact, the items 8 and 12 in the Sustainable Development Goals, where they refer to the whole aspect of growth and consumerism. That needs to be re-examined. And I think we need to build on the idea of equity. And if the SDG goals are talking about equity, then they should also address the big business and big banks, because sustainable development does not seem to address them directly. And we also need to work towards dismantling the arms industry. We need to save the oceans from becoming dumping grounds for plastics. And we need to save the oceans from being overfished. And this is what I would call cyclical thinking and working with the grain of creation so that we can preserve what is left for us and regenerate the earth for future generations. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, thank you indeed. And Ms. Basu, if I can now invite you to make your final statement.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So we know that the pandemic has just brought the world to its knees and shown us how grossly inadequate our social infrastructure and recovery mechanisms are, and the impact on the weak and the vulnerable has been disproportionately severe. And the sad thing is we don't even know the extent of the severity in many cases. So the process of recovery must ensure that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. And the signs that we will already do so are out there, because most developed nations are now citing the need to accelerate the economy at the cost of everything else. And our planet's ecosystems are at a tipping point, and many might not regenerate unless we take actions now. And the SDGs provide us with the only viable blueprint for creating a just, equitable, and sustainable world. And it's imperative that their acceleration take priority on every agenda, be it global, regional, national, or local. And faith-based organizations, religious leaders, social innovation actors must all collaborate and reach out to those who are the farthest first. And the recovery process must be at the grassroots level for it to be resilient. And we need to take the outcomes of this dialogue to the people, reach those who are the most vulnerable, and then attach milestones and review mechanisms for the implementation and recovery processes. We must also be flexible in their implementation to tailor them to regional and local challenges to make them more effective, and we must constantly evaluate. But the road to recovery will not be easy. Dialogue, greater understanding, and empathy will be the key ingredients that will see us through. So we need to be together in order to come out stronger. Thank you.
Great statement. And Mother Jax, your final words.
Thank you. So in the coming future, I think we need to be more active in speaking out from wherever we're coming from to see that some of those things that can be dealt with sooner will be dealt with. One of the things that comes to mind is just how so much plastic is out there. And we're all encouraged to have takeout here in the United States area. And that every time you go to get takeout, they hand you a new piece of plastic. And we know that plastic's very dangerous and that there's just too much of it. And that brings up what's happening now is they've developed a creature that eats plastic. Now, this is kind of frightening to me because I feel that there's no rules over what they're developing. And I believe we should be active in reaching out and seeing that there are rules in that area. So, and polyurethane, that is also something we certainly don't need any more of. And all this is affecting the world in such negative ways. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to share with us not only your wisdom and your experience, but also your practical suggestions of how we, the people on this planet, can indeed move forward. We were going to link this gathering to the annual assembly of the Arctic Circle, where over 2,000 participants from more than 70 countries now come every year to Iceland to discuss not only the future of the Arctic, but how the melting of the glaciers and the ice in our part of the world is impacting weather patterns, sea level rise everywhere in the world. So every coastal city, every continent will be influenced by what happens to the glaciers and the ice in our part of the world. I am sometimes asked, why is it that you are bringing together church leaders, faith leaders, scientists, activists on the environment, business leaders and others in this comprehensive dialogue? And in my answer, I go back to the book of Genesis, the remarkable text that is shared by all the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, and the Jewish faith. And in the book of Genesis, the Almighty gives the earth to us on the basis of the undertaking that we take care of the earth and the planet. That is the condition. That is the basis for these three great religions linking together: the Almighty, our faith, heavens, and the earth. And the essence of this is the notion of stewardship. The notion of stewardship, which is common to all the indigenous people, whether they are in the Arctic or the Amazonian region, or whether they are in Indonesia or in the Pacific Islands or wherever they are. And let's not forget that almost a third of our planet is in one way or another under the authority and control of indigenous people. And it's common to all of them that they are the stewards of their land and their ocean, of their water, and of the life that the earth has given them. And all these religions, as well as the indigenous people and the global climate campaign, is based on this moral, historic, common notion of a stewardship. A stewardship which is the essence of our faith and our religion, but is also the essence of the future of our planet. And that is why the indigenous leaders in the northernmost part of the Arctic, as well as those in the southernmost small island states in the Pacific, share a common future. So on that notion of how we move forward to make sure that we are worthy of the stewardship of our planet, I thank you all for participating here today and having made the final dialogue of this extraordinary gathering so comprehensive and profound. And as we leave you, we move towards three other elements in the final hour of this global dialogue. The first is an introduction of a new publication, Faith for the Earth, which will be introduced by 2 or 3 speakers when I finish. And following that, the director of the Icelandic Climate Council, who was also one of the leading officials of the Paris Climate Agreement, Halldór Þorgeirsson, will sum up the essence of the dialogue that has taken place in this conference. And then finally, we will move towards the closing statements from the leadership of the United Nations Environmental Organization and from the Bishop of Iceland.